This is Paul Schneiderman today on the 29th edition of Sports and Stuff on Rainier Avenue Radio. Today we have a very special guest. We have Dave Tippett. Dave is a legendary former NHL player and former NHL coach. Dave is currently the consultant at the Seattle Hockey Group, OVG, the OVG Group. OVG Group's trying to bring the NHL to Seattle. I think the Seattle sports community, Dave, is going to be hearing a lot more about you as the days and years go on. Many of us are just so pumped up about the possibility of the NHL coming to Seattle in a couple of years. Dave, I want to give a little background of you for the listeners. Dave is a native of the Canadian province of Saskatchewan. Dave has lived the dream of many Canadians becoming a star hockey player and prominent coach. Dave played in the Canadian Olympics team, I believe, and back in 84, 92. Dave played 11 years in NHL as a left winger, had stints with, I believe, 4 franchises. Dave worked as an assistant coach for an NHL team, and he was the head coach of the Dallas Stars for about 7 seasons, and he was the head coach of the Arizona Coyotes from 2009 through 2017, where I read you won the Jack Adams Award as NHL Coach of the Year back in 2010. Dave, it's just an absolute pleasure to have you come on Sports and Stuff on Rainier Avenue Radio.
Thanks very much. Great to be here.
Absolutely. Dave, as I mentioned at the beginning, I think you're a name that the Seattle sports community and others in our region are going to get to know a lot better as the years go on. I want the listeners to learn a little bit more about you and your background. Tell us a little about growing up in Saskatchewan and how you got the hockey bug.
Well, I think everybody in Saskatchewan gets the hockey bug. There's not much else to do there. It's cold. So, no, my dad played hockey, not professionally, but my brother played, and so it was just in the family. You just grow up playing hockey. The first team I played on, I was 3 years old. So you grow up playing hockey, and like you mentioned, every kid's dream is to play in the NHL, and you just keep playing until that dream comes true. And it doesn't happen for a lot of people, but I was one of the lucky ones, and played 11 seasons in the NHL, really enjoyed it, and went from there into the coaching ranks.
Yeah, great background, Dave. This is Paul Schneiderman of Sports and Stuff on Rainier Avenue Radio with NHL legend and current OVG consultant for the Seattle Hockey Group, Dave Tippett. Dave, you played, as I mentioned in the introduction, on I believe 2 Canadian Olympic teams?
2. 1984 in Sarajevo, Yugoslavia. I played, I was still amateur players then, so I played once as an amateur. And then 1992 in Albertville, I was playing for the Washington Capitals, and was chosen to go play in the Olympics there. Didn't get a medal in 84. We lost to Sweden in the bronze medal game, but 92 we lost to Russia in the gold medal game, so got the silver medal. Would rather have the gold, but the silver is
not too shabby.
It's my kids were interested to see it when I got home, that's for sure.
Oh, I bet. Well, Dave, I told you off the air, I love the game of hockey, the sport of hockey, but I don't know all the details as well, like a lot of people in Seattle. But another follow-up question I want to have for you about Olympic hockey, but I know Olympic hockey a little bit, such a great game. That famous, of course, 1980 U.S. miraculous win against the former Soviet Union. Dave, what do you think of the NHL's decision in 2018 to not let NHL players play in the 2018 Winter Olympics?
Well, it was unique because the players, as a player, you always want to have those experiences. So from a player standpoint, it was anybody that would have had the opportunity to go, you hate to see them miss that opportunity. On the other side of the slate, and since I've got into coaching and management, you can also understand the owner's predicament on it. You send a star player over there, and God forbid they have a career-ending injury or situation where that it really affects the outcome of their team that they own. They that has an impact. So there's a kind of the emotional side, which everybody always wants to see the best players there, and the best players want to compete against the best players. But then there's the reality of it's a business, and players make a lot of money, and that's their livelihood, and you'd hate to see that go away. So I would like to see them go back and get back to the Olympics, and hopefully they will next time. I can just say from my own personal experience, it was a phenomenal experience both times.
Oh, I bet. Well, I just want to get your feedback on that. It strikes me you can kind of get the management side, but you get the player's perspective too.
You got an opportunity to play in the Olympics. You hate to deny anybody that.
Oh, yeah. Paul Schneiderman again on Sports and Stuff on Rainier Avenue Radio with hockey legend Dave Tippett. Dave, I'm going to kind of ask you some questions to scratch the surface a little more about your playing career. If we had more time, we only have 27 minutes today, it would hit you a lot more on a lot more details. But real quickly, Dave, you coached and played in quite a few NHL cities. Pick one. What was your favorite NHL city you ever played or coached in?
Favorite NHL city to play in?
Or coach in?
Well, to play was the old Chicago Stadium. because it was just a raucous place, and the visitors' dressing room was downstairs, and you had to come up these stairs to get to the ice surface. You just felt like you're going into the lion's den, you know. So that was a great spot to play. And there's a lot of great buildings. You know, the new buildings are they're posh and just, you know, all the facilities are top notch. But I used to like the old buildings. Like my first game in the NHL was in the Boston Garden, where you went in there and you just
old school, huh? Yeah.
Old school. You just, you know, it seemed like there was still sweat on the floor from the last team that was there. And Montreal, you know, the Forum in Montreal was an amazing place. Maple Leaf Gardens, all the kind of the old buildings that had so much character, so much tradition.
Like the Fenway Parks of the NHL.
Yeah,
right?
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, right. Well, one little more question about your career, and I think we'll move on to some more contemporary issues. But, and this may be a naive, silly question, but I'll still ask you: was Gretzky the greatest player you ever played with?
I didn't play with him. I played against him a lot. Chased him around a lot.
Right.
Yeah, he was, you know, in that era, he was way ahead. He just thought the game better than anybody anticipated. And I was one of those guys that always had the assignment to go and see if I could check him and not make him be a valuable player in a game. So I spent a lot of time chasing him around, and he was as good as his point totals and his legacy is.
But you can be a little thorn in the side, though, too, right?
Yeah, you know what? The first time I played against him, I remember he had a trick. There was a lot of players that used to try to, you know, take him out of the game kind of thing. And I was checking him real close. I had my stick beside him. He took his stick and he shoved it underneath the front of my skates. And I tripped. It was the first minute of the game. He got a penalty. I remember the rest of their team screaming at me the rest of the game. They were going to kill me because I was trying to do my job. I was just a young guy. Hey, I'm just doing my job. But he was the best player I played against. The best player I ever played with was Mario Lemieux in Pittsburgh. He was, to watch a player like
Great
that
talent.
play, yeah, just phenomenal talent.
Well, just fun for me to hear some of your stories about some of these big household NHL names. It's fun. Well, Dave, real quick question. So the NHL, of course, in 2004, 2005, had a season-long lockout. I believe the NHL is the only North American pro sports league to ever have a season end because of a lockout. Do you feel labor management relations are more stable now?
I think they really are. I mean, I think, you know, at the time there was lots of talk about the salary cap coming in, but it really has, I wouldn't say even the playing field, but made the playing field knowledgeable for everybody. And, you know, I think this next time coming up, I think there's always issues when it comes to collective bargaining agreements because of the advancement of the game and salaries and salary structures and that. But the game's in great shape right now.
Seems like it.
From both the players' perspective and the owner's perspective. So hopefully that's a good sign moving forward. But that was a big change to go from a non-salary cap era to a salary cap. Was a big change in the game, and now I think the health of the game is good, and you know, some of those changes that were made ended up being very good for everybody.
Yeah. Paul Schnarman again on Sports and Stuff on Rainier Avenue Radio with hockey great Dave Tippett. Dave, this is a question. A lot of us, including me, are people who want to learn more about hockey. I really enjoy the sport, but I don't know it that well. I've been to a couple of NHL games, but my knowledge base, like a lot of Seattle fans, is pretty superficial. Of course, watching more hockey will educate someone more about the game of hockey. Any books or other resources you can recommend to people to learn more about hockey? Any great videos or books you can recommend?
You know what? I think one of the biggest differences in hockey the last, say, 10 years is HDTV. And, you know, you can look at a book, but it doesn't have the action or the motion of the game. The best teachers for game, and it's funny, when I first started playing, there wasn't a lot of video you watched. But then I got into coaching and started watching video, you know, you're watching a game after. And now people ask me a question like that. It's, you know what, watch the game on TV. The game is so empowering on TV because you get the highlights, you get the speed of it, and it's so clear now that you can actually see the puck. The old, you know, you couldn't see the puck before, but you know, the media does a great job of just analyzing the game and teaching fans the game. That would be the big thing for me. Just watch it on TV, you'll learn the game, and you'll start enjoying the game. And then the next step of that is to go to a game, because there's nothing like hockey.
No doubt about it.
When
Great
you're
sport.
live sport. It's
Great sport.
I always say I go to a football game, I wish they'd take a couple hockey rinks, throw them in the middle there, and watch how people react to it. But so watching the game, especially in HD these days, is the best way to learn the game.
Maybe read a Hockey for Dummies book on the side.
Well,
too,
maybe,
so.
yeah.
Okay.
I didn't want to go there.
So, Dave, you are part of the OVG Group. I believe you're a senior consultant at the OVG Group, the group that's led by Todd and Tim Lewicki, I believe. It's trying to bring the NHL to Seattle by 2021 season, I believe.
Yeah.
Now, this may be kind of a nosy question, but I'm still going to ask it. Could you be the coach or general manager? Is that a possibility in the future?
We've talked about all different things. The coaching part, Todd and I talked about. I won't take that off the table. We'll just see how that's going. The general manager part, I think it's important that we have somebody with experience in that part. I've got experience in the minor leagues, but not in the NHL. So I think the general manager job is something that I would like to see to go somebody else. But the coaching or just be involved in the process of building it is something that's really intriguing to me.
Well, we look forward to seeing what your role is going to be, continues going to be with the OVG Group and the hockey effort. Paul Schneiderman, again, on Sports and Stuff on Rainier Avenue Radio with Dave Tippett. Dave, as you probably learned, you've been living in the Seattle area now for a little bit. We've had some bad luck with pro sports franchises. We've lost our Sonics. The NHL at one time guaranteed us a franchise, didn't fall through in the 70s. The list goes on where Seattle's kind of had some bad luck with teams. Do things look good? We're going to get a team by 2020. Does it look pretty inevitable? What do you think?
Well, I think it's almost a foregone conclusion. When you look at people like Todd Lewicki show up here to help run this through. So, and the excitement in town. I've been in town for a couple months now, and it's amazing the people that just you start talking hockey and everybody's excited about it. So, and speaking from experience with a daughter in the area and a son-in-law who has a couple grandsons. I've got a couple grandsons. There's a huge sports fan. Doesn't matter what it is. This is a sports city. And they're excited about hockey, but they're excited about all their sports, and that's what's going to make it a great franchise.
Well, I thought that was really impressive that there were 30,000 people or so that slapped their names
30,000
down.
plus.
Isn't that something? God, that drive was just
It's going to be
amazing.
interesting to see how we fit them into a 17,000 seat building.
Right. Well, my name wasn't on the list, but a friend helped reserve tickets,
nice.
So hopefully I'll be at least a partial season ticket holder. Real quickly, Dave, if this Key Arena, assuming this Key Arena remodel gets done, is there an NHL arena you think the Key Arena will resemble?
Good question. There's the one thing about this Key Arena, and I've just saw the plans of it so far. The intimacy is going to be fabulous for hockey. It's the sight lines and the trajectory of where the seats go in is kind of like some of the old buildings, which is really exciting. Because some of the new buildings, they're so spread out. They're beautiful buildings, but you seem like you're not right on top of the action. There's going to be great seats all the way out through this building where you feel like you're right there. And if the plans are any indication than what I've seen, it's going to be a fabulous building and great for hockey or whatever sports in there.
Could you compare it to any other current NHL arena at all?
I don't know current ones. Trying to think. Minnesota's got a great building where you feel like the fans are right on top of you there. Some of the other buildings, they're just so big that it takes away from that atmosphere a little bit. But there's some good buildings around. Probably a better way to put it is it mimics some of the old buildings where there was some character. There was people right close to the action, and if you're a player, you love that. You like to be right in the heart of the action.
That's neat. Well, Dave, as we know, the Las Vegas Golden Knights had tremendous success the last NHL season. I mean, my gosh, how many expansion teams in any pro sport get to their respective league championships? It's just an amazing story. They apparently did it through draft picks and other good management moves. Any chance Seattle we can replicate that success, or is it just? Are we going to go Stanley? Are you going to guarantee us a Stanley Cup appearance first year, Dave?
No, they had an unbelievable season, but I've done a deep study on that team, and they did a real good job of their expansion draft. They traded a bunch of picks to add new picks for some in the amateur draft, so they built their stockpile for moving forward. But they, the NHL rules, when they put the price tag they did on, the NHL rules were much better, much easier for expansion teams than it had been in the past. And they used their rules well. They picked good players, and they just had a team chemistry that was really fun to watch. I think there was a lot of people really cheering for them. Now, they're they'll be right there again this year. There's the thing with the NHL with the salary cap. Every year there's about 20 teams that could do just like what Vegas did. So we'll be in that same position. Our rules are going to be the same in the expansion draft. So can you go to the finals? I don't know, but it's not out of the question.
That's really exciting, and I wasn't trying to put you on the spot too much and guaranteeing a Seattle NHL Finals Stanley Cup appearance our expansion year, but that Las Vegas story was just quite a
it's incredible. As
story.
I did, like I said, I did a deep dive into that team, and there was a number of things. Their general manager did a great job. The tragedy of October 1st had a big impact on that team, just to bond them together, not just with the players, but with the whole organization and the city. So it was a great run for them. I think our sport should be proud of what they did, not just in their community, throughout the league. So if we can emulate that would be a real positive step for us.
Oh, I bet. Dave, real quickly, so next couple of years, it looks like you're going to be based in Seattle. Are you going to be still going to all NHL games in different markets? Or?
Yeah, there'll be some traveling involved. The first year really is lots of infrastructure with, trying to get the arena built. We're pushing forward, trying to do a practice facility here. And in those spaces, there's a lot of hockey spaces between your dressing room facilities, just to make sure everything works the way it should for an NHL team. I'll be involved in a lot of that stuff. But then as we move on, we'll start to evaluate people that we want to bring into our organization, the management, and then you start getting into bringing on scouts, and then you start getting into the player personnel. So it'll be 2 years, but it'll go fast.
It'll be exciting. And by the way, I know you have a construction background too.
I do. I used to have a little construction company of my own a long time ago.
Yeah.
Back when athletes didn't make as much as they make now.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you have some insights in construction aspects too. Paul Schneiderman of Sports and Stuff on Rainier Avenue Radio with hockey great and current OVG Seattle hockey consultant Dave Tippett. Dave, there was a great article in the Seattle Times about the importance of NHL training and practice facilities. You were mentioned prominently in Jeff Baker's column. I'm going to recommend the listeners go to seattletimes.com and read the column. But I got one question for you on the practice facility issue. I could ask you a lot more, but kind of want to hit a lot of topics today. Traffic, as you know, is a big issue in the Seattle region. Would it make sense to have the practice facility pretty close to Key Arena?
Well, it all depends. I'm not sure if Key Arena is the right spot for it. For me, it's visibility, not just or feasibility, not just for our team, but for public and minor hockey also. We're talking about putting a 3-sheet facility in that will really not just be a key spot for our team to train and our organization to kind of have our foot in the ground there, but there's a lot of minor hockey, a lot of adult hockey in town here that will be a great benefit for this facility. So they're still talking about a couple different locations, and I've looked at the ones around town. They'll all be great locations, but right beside Key Arena, it's not necessarily where we're going to be.
But likely will be in King County, Dave, the practice facility?
I don't know King County yet, so
okay.
I know Seattle and Bellevue. But
Well, King County is like a big county, so it can spread pretty far. But
I can't say for sure on that one.
Okay.
Help me out on that one, Hamilton.
Gotcha. Well, look forward to just learn more about the practice facility. It could be a great way for the franchise to introduce the game to more people as well.
Yeah, it'll be a place where there'll be kind of the hub of hockey in Washington.
Dave, real quickly, hockey's a great sport, and demographically, it's generally a pretty Caucasian game, and usually confined also geographically to people in certain geographic regions. Do you have any thoughts, Dave? You know the hockey industry so well about getting the game introduced to more people of color and ethnic minorities.
I think it's taken leaps and bounds the last 10 years.
Has
or
it?
So
Okay.
It just seems like there's no barriers now, and I played on a lot of teams with different nationality players, whether European or Russian or the ethnic backgrounds, and it's our game is an all-encompassing game. It's I think what dictates more is just opportunity. You get a lot of northern Canadian people playing, or
Right.
northern Sweden and Finland, and so it's gone in that direction. But I played with a lot of real great African American players and there's more and more coming every day.
You see the game getting further diversified.
I do.
Yeah.
It's a great game, and anybody that plays it, once they get going on it, it's an enjoyable game, and you get a little passion for it.
For sure.
And you run with it.
For sure. Dave, there's been some talk. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the NHL system, the American Hockey League, is an affiliate for NHL franchises. Any idea where the Seattle affiliate could be?
Yeah, we've looked at a couple different locations, and I briefed the ownership on it last week in a meeting, and we've talked to the AHL about acquiring an expansion franchise. That the way it works right now, there's 31 teams in the NHL, and there's 31 American Hockey League teams, and if we become the 32nd team, then we'll have to find a place to put that. And ideally, we'd put it in the Western United States here somewhere, just with logistics and travel and stuff. And the American Hockey League has expanded. There's 4 teams in California right now, 1 in Arizona. So there's lots of places out west here that we'll probably look at and hopefully end up in a good spot. That's logistics are right for our NHL team.
Idaho, Oregon possibilities?
You never know.
Never know. Okay. Paul Schneiderman of Sports and Stuff, again on Rainier Avenue Radio with hockey great Dave Tippett. Dave, one thing we have here in the Seattle region is we have 2 WHL franchises, one in Everett, one in Kent. Any thoughts on what the Seattle NHL Teams relationship could be with these 2 WHL franchises?
I think it'll be a tight relationship, and I've already met with Russ Farwell, who's the general manager and owner of the Thunderbirds. Haven't been up to Everett yet, but Russ and I have a long background. He was my last general manager in the league when I played for Philadelphia. He was the general manager there, so I've met with him and went down, looked at their facilities. I think the junior hockey teams do a fantastic job. They're run almost like mini NHL franchises now, and they have great followings, and anything that Russ's point is, you guys are going to help grow the game, and growing the game at the top level filters down into those junior levels, and so they look at it as a real positive. It just brings more notoriety to hockey, and they both, Everett and Seattle Thunderbirds, both run excellent programs, and there's a lot of loyal followers there already.
So they feel, those franchises still feel pretty good. They can still do well with the big hot NHL ticket in town.
Yeah, that's a whole different market for them with the junior players, and they'll see our presence at those games because a lot of those games are scouted. Those are the up and coming players that are you're going to be drafted in the next few years.
Right. I was sort of wondering, Dave. I appreciate your feedback. I think some were wondering, they don't know the game as well as you, is Seattle gets an NHL team at Key Arena. What's going to happen? These, the WHL teams. No, but you seem pretty optimistic.
I'm very optimistic with them. I think it'll help them rather than hurt them for sure.
Yeah. That's interesting perspective. I guess, like, to use a minor league baseball analogy, we have the Mariners in Seattle, and the Tacoma Rainiers still do pretty well, and the Everett team does pretty well.
Okay. It's a bit of a different market, and obviously a different ticket price, and but they both have good franchises that they'll do just fine.
NHL's not a cheap ticket, by the way.
I don't think any major sport these days is a cheap ticket, is it? So it's there's, when you have passionate sports fans and hopefully you have a good team, that's a good mix.
Dave, let me ask you about fighting in hockey. It's something that I think a lot of people don't follow hockey that well. So whenever they think of hockey, they think of fighting. Is it just always going to be part of the game, or do you think it'll ever be banned or scaled back? Give me your thoughts on that. It's
scaled back immensely the last 10 years. It's, with hockey, it's intimidation is still a part of the game, and I don't mean so much physical intimidation, but it's a part of the game where the players police themselves a little bit. Now that is going by the wayside. We used to have 1 referee and 2 linesmen, and now there's 2 referees, and it's hard to get away with the things you used to be able to get away with. But I think hockey has scaled back significantly the last 10 years ago or so, and I think it'll continue to do that. The game has turned into a high-paced skating game, thinking game, and it's
real finesse sport.
It's just evolving into a fast game, but there's always the odd time where the 2 guys have a score to settle, and it's an honest way to settle it, and they take their penalty and move on. Right.
Well, it has a little bit of that big time wrestling aspect to it, but of course it's a very finesse and good sport.
Yeah, so. The thing about the game we went through a stage where there was a lot of, every team had kind of one tough guy, and he would go out and fight the other tough guy, and they felt like they were doing their job, and that wasn't the mainstay of what fighting in hockey was. It was a spontaneous thing that just all of a sudden two guys settle a score and you move on, and it was less staged. So we don't have the stage fighting and two guys lining up and you know they're going to fight before they fight. That's not happening anymore.
Well, Dave, I think me and a lot of listeners just learned a little more inside view about fighting in hockey. It's an interesting perspective. Dave, you're Canadian descent, and I think right now there's only, 6 NHL franchises in Canada left of the 31? Did I have that right?
3, 4, 5, 6, is it 7, I think.
There's 7? Okay.
Montreal, Toronto, Ottawa,
Winnipeg,
Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver.
Okay, there's 7.
7.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think? Because a lot of Canadians have a worry, that maybe a fair worry, the game is just becoming very U.S. focused. And any thoughts about just what's happening to some Canadian franchises?
I don't get that sense from all my family is still in Canada. I don't get that sense from them. They're passionate hockey fans. I mean, I think they would. They love to see their teams do well, and they would love to see a Stanley Cup go back to Canada at some point in one of those teams. But it's I don't get that feeling. I think hockey is a sport that it's become a very worldly sport, even with the European countries in now. That and even though Canada, the diversity in the league around the countries, Canada used to be always about over 80%. I think it's down to around 60% now. So just shows how far the world has come in embracing our sport.
Yeah, I know there was some talk. Some thought Commissioner Bettman was focused too much on U.S. markets, but you gave some perspectives on that.
No, I don't see that, and I think any Canadian market that would have the wherewithal to handle an NHL team could handle it, but there's logistics involved with, especially the salary cap where we're at today. It's got to be a good business also.
Well, Dave, believe it or not, we got less than 30 seconds left. Tell us more about what's in the future for Dave Tippett.
Well, I'm just enjoying the people I'm working with here, and hopefully we build a fantastic franchise and something that not just the people at NHL Seattle or OVG can be proud of, but the whole community can be proud of, and get to that expansion draft and build a good team and get on the ice and get going, and something that everybody's going to have a lot of fun with.
Dave, thanks so much for coming on Sports and Stuff. Looking forward so much to having the NHL come to Seattle.
Appreciate it. Anytime.
Thanks, Dave.